Hello. So it's been a while. Today is what? Sunday, February 17th of 2019, not 2018, as I've made that mistake like 3 or 4 times this year already. One day I'll remember what year it is. It's been a while since I've streamed. I was on vacation last week, so I took a trip to Florida with my brother. We went around to a bunch of cities and did touristy stuff, and it was pretty fun. I'm kind of glad to be back, though. There's only so long that I can stay away, I guess. I didn't really do too much. I tried to stay away from my computer as much as possible, but of course I couldn't completely do that. So I did a couple things while I was away. One of them was I packaged Python 3.8, or at least the Alpha 1 version of Python 3.8 for Dead Snakes, which is an Ubuntu PPA. Basically, I maintain, I say high quality, but reasonably high quality backports of the Python Debian packages to older distributions. So, for instance, now I can run Python 3.8, and we can have our friend the walrus operator, which I think is silly, but it's a thing now. Oh, I changed my window size. Go back. Oh, off by 1. There we go. But yeah, I packaged 3.8. I had one down day where I think my brother was taking a nap or something. I don't really remember. But I was like, well, instead of just sitting here twiddling my thumbs, I'm gonna work on this. I think that was the day that it rained. But anyway. So that's all I really have to share since last time. The last stream we worked on fixing, again, Python 3.8 stuff, but in 2 of my projects. One of them was in PyUpgrade. I say I did nothing, but here's a commit that I did this morning. So we fixed some Python 3.8 bugs in a couple of my code formatters, which were causing it to just do nonsense garbage. Fortunately, it was because Python fixed things. The other was in add trailing comma, where we made a similar patch. Basically, removed the necessity to backtrack in Python 3.8. Anyway, that's what I did last time. Today, what I want to work on is, we made this thing a couple streams ago called setup.py upgrade, and what it does is it takes traditional setup.py, so for example, here's a traditional setup.py, which imports setup tools and usually just calls the setup function, passes a bunch of data along, and blah blah blah. Does that. But what I wanted to do, or what I made, was a tool that takes this code-based setup.py and migrates it to a declarative-based setup.cfg. It functions the same as long as you have modern setup tools or you use Python wheel. But it's much easier to change it's much easier to change a data file than it is to change a code file. Oh shoot, I just changed how this works. Let me, readme is off by 1 line. I changed, this new line isn't there anymore. We'll just ninja fix that. And commit straight to master because whatever. Okay, I thought I spelled temporarily wrong. Anyway, what it does is it takes the setup.py and rewrites it. So this is the minimum that you need for setup.py in the modern world. And actually, there's a new patch to pip, which makes this file completely unnecessary because this is silly. Why would you need this? But depending on modern pip is kind of difficult. I don't know that I'll be able to use this, or I'll be able to delete this file for a while. But it spits out this .cfg file, which has all of the same information that setup.py had, except now you can modify it with code. I guess you could modify it with code before, but it's much easier to modify this data file than it is to modify the code file. And it includes all the same information, so you can see like we'll have like name, description, long description. There's some special directives in this that allow it to open files. The long description for pre-commit would come from the readme.md file. Where's the other directive? Packages. There's this :find, which replaces setup tools find packages. And this is where you specify the arguments. But anyway, long story short, there's metadata now. And so what I want to do is move all my projects to use this because it seems much better. And at the same time, while moving them over, I want to kind of normalize some of these fields. Like, I know here I should have license equals MIT, but I don't. I have the classifier instead, so I should have both of those. And like, there's some stuff that I can do while migrating that'll make that better. Also, I want to make sure that, or I want to like pick an ordering of these fields and make that consistent across all my projects. Same with these fields and these things down here. But yeah, that's the plan for today. Across all my repositories is going to be powered by another tool that I wrote called all-repos. Basically, it does what it says on the tin. You clone all your repositories and apply sweeping changes. It has a bunch of like command line tools which make it easy to kind of, I guess, search for stuff and apply changes. So all-repos clone is how you get started. This is if you want tab complete for get clone. Find files is a nice way to find files based on a regex. There's a distributed grep. There's list repos, which just kind of shows which ones you have cloned. In fact, I just ran list repos here. So you can see like these are all of the repos that I have cloned right now. There's also all-repos manual, which is a way to apply a refactor to all of your code at once. Like if I did all-repos manual, dry run, branch name, foo, commit, message, bar, repos. Think this will work? Yeah, so what this does is it allows you to modify code here. So if I said like, no, I added a new line here. And the modification will be committed. So if I just type exit, I'm hoping dry run works. I assume it does. It'll then allow me to like make a commit. And then if I say yes, it'll move on to the next repository. So now we're looking at PyUpgrade instead of all-repos. And like, I could apply that same change, although this doesn't have a mypy identity. So like, add a new line here and exit. And anyway, all-repos manual is a nice way to like apply a manual change over and over and over. But that's not really where all-repos shines the best. The best uses of it are when you can have a fully automated refactoring tool. Since I used dry run, it didn't actually push or change anything, but if I didn't use dry run, it would have made GitHub pull requests automatically. It's pretty powerful. I've used it to change all sorts of code, and like some other people have used it too. I really like it. I think it's a cool tool. But that's all-repos manual. There's all-repos sed for if you just have like one-off things you want to change. I have some examples of this. All-repos incantations for spells that I've casted on my repos. But yeah, like here's a very simple example of all-repos sed, where it takes lines that match sudo : in travis.yaml and drops them. And so like here's an example diff of what it applies. But yeah, most of these all repos incantations are ones where I've used all repos sed to modify files. But anyway, that's some of those. What were we talking about? Okay, so that's all repos sed. And then there's a bunch of fixers that I've written as well. So we're going to probably write a fixer today that will do the metadata migration magic. But some of the fixers that I've run before, like running pre-commit auto-update on all of the repos, or moving autopip8 wrapper to mirrors autopip8, or modifying the cache directory, because pre-commit changed that at one point. Most of them are pre-commit now that I look at it. So this will be the first one that, or the first public one. I've written a bunch of like closed source ones and ones that I'm not proud enough of to open source. Yeah, we'll write an autofixer. The other thing that all repos does is you can configure different sources. So the one that I use most commonly is the GitHub source, where you just pass an API key and a username, and you can set some other settings, and it'll clone all the repos from your GitHub source. There's also inclusion and exclusion. Where is that get configured? I forget. Well, there's a couple other sources, so you can clone a GitHub organization. I've used this before to update a license file in a bunch of people's, or in one particular organization's repositories. Gitilite, which is a hosted Git solution, you can use that. I want to add GitLab at one point, or at some point, and probably Bitbucket, but I haven't found the need or had the time, so I haven't bothered. It's also easy to add your own source if you wanted to. I also have to add GitHub Enterprise because my work is moving to that pretty soon, and I kind of want to still be able to use this tool when that happens. There's also some push modules. Basically, you can plug in however you want to retrieve repos or not. What's at Project DP? I'm not sure what bang task is. Oh, are you asking what my task is right now? What I'm working on? I'm partway through explaining it. I'm taking this setup.py migrating script, which takes... Oh, sometimes there's a bot. Yeah, I don't have a bot. I should maybe look up some bots or write one or do something like that. But what I'm doing is taking setup.py code and turning it into setup.cfg metadata. And I'm going to try and apply that to all my repos. But I was in the middle of explaining what all repos is, kind of. And what we're going to be doing today is writing an autofixer. I'm going to ignore the docs because we're just going to copy and paste one of the other ones. Now that I mention it, there's some other settings in the configuration that I think aren't listed. Oh no, here they are. Anyway, I'm not going to show you my configuration because it contains my keys, but you'll have to take my word for it. The first thing that I want to do is collect all of the keys that are being used. All of the setup.py keywords that are being used. So I can figure out a proper ordering for them. Basically all of these. And go from there. So we're going to be using setup.py upgrade today. Just to show you what it does. If you run it on dot, you can see that it's added this information to my setup.cfg and removed it from setup.py. And basically I'm going to apply that to everything. Ooh, I'm just thinking about how I can parse out all of these keywords. think I'm just gonna cheat. But yeah, we'll not apply that just yet. So I'm gonna copy one of the autofixers I've written before and modify it. Because copy and paste programming is probably the easiest way to do anything. Let's see which one's the simplest. Well, that's pretty simple. That's a little more complicated. That one's a little complicated. This is a helper. Alright, so I'm gonna take this one. Not repos, all repos, autofix, setup.py upgrade. Okay, cool. So the basics for implementing an autofixer is you have kind of three functions. One is the thing that makes the change, one of them is the thing that finds repos that it applies to, and the last is to check the output fix. And so finding repos is going to be, so check fixes is going to be easy. There's nothing, literally nothing to check. So I think we can leave that one out. Check fix. Is that optional? Let me look. Check fix. It appears to be defaulting to like no op fix, so we can leave that out. For finding repos, we want to find any repo that has a setup.py with some contents, I guess. So I think, so I want something that will match setup.py but not match to the empty one. So I think I can just look for an equals sign in here, because the trivial one does not have one. Yeah, no equals here. So a bit of a hack, but why would we write code if it weren't for hacks? Okay, so that part's done. The autofix part is just going to be running a setup running this script, setup.py upgrade. And then we'll modify some of the metadata after this. Some of the thing, I'm going to write down some notes here, and we'll probably add more ideas later. So the first is going to be sort the keys. We're going to substitute dashes for underscores. I know this is the opposite of what pip normalizes to, but we're going to substitute dashes for underscores in the name. Let me show you why. So this is all dash repos. If I make a source distribution in a wheel, the source distribution keeps the name, but the wheel always normalizes to underscores. But if I were to keep it as an underscore, then these end up with the same prefix. And so then when I go to upload them, I can tab complete, and this is a stupid reason, but I can tab complete and it'll get the full prefix in the version when I upload them. Because sometimes I don't clean up this directory, and so there's a bunch of different versions in there. But this will give me a way to just kind of normalize that. What else did I want to do? Add description and description. What is it? long description, that's what I want. Long description and long description content type. Basically, I'll detect if the readme.md exists and add these two fields. We'll add this license field if it exists. License and license file. We'll make sure to add this classifier. I'm sure I'll think of other things as we go, but I think those are some of the things I want to start with. And it might actually make sense to take these best practices and put them into a separate tool. But we'll see how it goes, and if it proves useful enough, I'll make a new tool. I guess I can look at the pre-commit one because that was probably my most complete example. Where is that? Here we go. Talked about long description. These are pretty standard. I'll want to mention, I think like normalizing these Python classifiers is probably good. This is new music, by the way, from what I usually stream. It's the same channel, but they sometimes upload new music, and so if you wonder why it sounds different, that's why. But yeah, I don't see anything else here to worry about. I guess I can look at the entire list of fields and see if there's anything else that I'd want to add. So I grabbed a list of fields here. I can set download URL, but you're already on PyPI if you're looking at that, so what's the point? Oh, I should do Python requires. So this is a way to tell Pip, hey, don't install me if I'm Python 3 only or whatever. Yeah, I don't think there's anything else from here. Platforms might be something to set. I don't think I set that in any of my projects though. Maybe it's in pre-commit? No, I must have gotten rid of it. Yeah, it looks like in 1.3.0 I decided to get rid of platforms. Oh, because it said Linux for the longest time and pre-commit is a cross-platform project. Hey Anthony, have you used Poetry for packaging? I have not. I've looked at it. It seems like a good idea. Let's see. But it also seems like it's obviously not what I want to search for. Yeah, just search the word poetry and that'll get you where you want. It seems a little bit, at least for my uses, a little bit unnecessary. Most of what I do in open source is libraries, and so lock files aren't super helpful for them. And I don't know, I think like the vanilla tools work well enough. But I don't know, when pyproject.toml becomes, or when the new Pip 517 stuff becomes more mainstream, I guess not really mainstream, but like easier to apply everywhere, maybe I'll consider using this or Flit or one of the other tools. But for now, like, I don't know. Requirements.txt works well enough for me, and for libraries, you really only need setup.py anyway. And I'm comfortable using virtualenv, so I don't know. It is useful for managing all that other stuff, and like having log files is kind of nice. But you can also do that with just requirements files. And so like let's see, Pip Tools is one of the tools that I've used, which has similar goals as Poetry, but tries to be less of a project controlling thing and more of just like do a single thing well. I say well because Pip Tools has its problems, but Pip Tools is helpful for generating requirements.txt files. Before I knew about Pip Tools, I actually wrote one of my own that does the same thing. Requirements Tools, is that what it was called? Yeah. Yeah, the idea behind Requirements Tools was the same as Pip Tools, although it had some other scripts along with it. But upgrade requirements is the same idea as like pip compile from Pip Tools. The goal with Requirements Tools was a little bit different though. We wanted to strictly enforce that everything was pinned and validate that everything was pinned in kind of a enterprise environment kind of deal. We'll get to pipenv in a second. So we wanted a way to validate all of the requirements were pinned properly. And so check requirements was actually the first tool that was built. And then upgrade requirements came later, and visualize requirements came last. Let's see if there's examples down here. Nope. It used to be on my wiki, because these all came from tools that I just kind of wrote in my home directory. And then, yeah, here's visualizing requirements, which I realized there's pip deptree or something that does the same thing. But again, like, these tools are really hard to find, and it's much easier to just write them sometimes. So, yeah, here's like an example of visualizing some requirements. But yeah, I've used pip deptree also. I don't know. This was a tool that I wrote. It's not entirely necessary. What about pipenv? Well, I think pipenv is... Sorry, this video does not exist. Cool. Great. Awesome. I think pipenv, one, like, tries to do... You can... What? What is pipenv gonna do in my browser? What is this? Is this like actually making a virtual machine? Anyway, I think pipenv is it's probably a virtual yeah. I think pipenv tries to solve a lot of the same things as Poetry, but also like tries to go way further into a domain that I'm not at all comfortable with. It kind of takes over your entire development workflow. The other problem I have with pipenv is pipfile is more code and less data. Like when pipfile was originally being worked on, let's see. Did I make the issue or did someone else make the issue? Must not have been. Let's see, Google. Yeah, when pipfile was first being worked on, the spec was that pipfile was like Python code, and then like you would execute it or like look at the AST or something crazy and like spit out outputs. And like this big long thread about it, and somewhere in here I talked about like why it's great to have data and like why setup.py was a problem and why setup.cfg is better, and like I don't know, a bunch of people agreed and like we're basically like, come on guys, we should probably like pick a format that isn't executable. It sounds like they changed that, so it's no longer it's no longer executable, which is good. But I don't know. For me, requirements.txt is good enough, and so I don't want or need these other tools. As long as I can use something like Pip Tools or upgrade requirements or whatever to freeze them. Also, the problem with Pip Tools, Pip one or another. The problem with pipenv is it adds a huge amount of latency to every command you run because it's, for whatever reason, it's slow. I don't get why it's slow, but that was my impression when I used it. I don't know. I'll stick with talks, which is enough complication, enough external tool, but like very little overhead. Breadstick is also like trying to get me to talk crap about Kenneth, which maybe I'll do it another time. pipenv is built on hashes. Hashes are used everywhere, always. Security. Automatically expose security vulnerabilities. So it's funny because this seems to backfire more often than provide helpful results from what I've seen. What was this one? Oh yeah. So like I uploaded files for more versions of FlipSASS. So my original upload only contained the Linux wheels, and later I uploaded Windows wheels, or maybe the other way around. But apparently pipenv just like exploded, even though like the files were valid and the same. Oh, I guess it was I uploaded Mac stuff after. But yeah, there's a bunch of ways to break pipenv, which I don't really like. But anyway, I'm not gonna tell you to use or not use pipenv. Like if you want to use it, go for it. I just won't use it myself. Poetry seems like a good idea, and not as bad, not as complicated as pipenv, not as overbearing, I guess. I also really dislike putting the for humans tagline on things because, like, no shit, it's for humans. We're all programmers. We are all humans. It also like seems to imply that other code is not for humans, and like I don't know. That and Sparkle Cake Sparkle just kind of grind my gears. But anyway, yeah, we won't be using platforms here. I think all the other ones we have covered already. And these 3 fields are obsolete. It's kind of funny that obsoletes is obsolete. But yeah, the first thing that we're going to do is we're just going to try and run setup.py upgrade on the repositories, and then I think I'll be able to like use some amount of grep instead to grab all of the keys out that I care about, or all the keys that I'm using right now. And then we'll worry about ordering and trying to implement some of these to-dos. But yeah, this is like basically the bare minimum you need to write a fixer with all repos. It's like a search function, and like you can actually leave this out and just match all the repos, and it'll run over them and just skip the ones that don't apply, or skip the ones that don't generate a diff after running this tool, or if the tool crashes or raises an exception or whatever, it'll just skip those repos. The other part of it is to write the main function. The main function is pretty straightforward. You parse the arguments. There's even a helper that does all the argument parsing for you. Then you run this fix function, which we can de-indent. We also want to require that a specific package is importable, and in this case it's setup.py upgrade. this is gonna be slightly too long. We don't have to require a specific version. Any version will work. Although O.O.2 is the most recent version. We'll add a commit message and we'll set a branch name to, I guess we'll just call it setup.py upgrade. But that's the basics. And then from there, like, I can get rid of the unused imports. Oh, these are nice indented. But if we run this now, it should do something. I'm gonna dry run so that we don't actually make any changes. But you can see, like, this is the diff it would have automatically applied to my repo, which is pretty cool. I guess I'm most of the way there now. But yeah, now it's just like trying to normalize these fields and figure out the rest of it. So the first thing that I'm going to do is run this dry run across all of my repos and write that out to a log file, and then we'll find all of these keys that are being used. This is going to take a while. Some of these are going to crash. Which one is this one? Activator. Key error version. This is probably doing something clever in setup.py that's different from the other projects. Oh yeah, it's importing version. Anyway, that won't be supported in this first pass, but that's fine. Other than that, it's gonna run a bunch of these. Might already be done, even. Oh, there's another stack trace. Well, we'll find all the stack traces in a sec. All-repos also has a mode for running parallel fixers, so I could run a bunch of sub-processes that all kind of fork off and do their own thing. Oh, I'm dropping frames because it's git cloning. Whoops. My bad. Oh, dang it, the stack traces go away. Oh well. At least I can, like, know which ones errored based on this. So, activator, libs has Python. That one I expect to fail because it does a bunch of stuff in setup.py. Talks fails. What does talks do in setup.py? I'm not gonna modify talks either, even though I'm a maintainer and this would improve it, but oh. I see. Oh, this is not going to be supported anyway, so this uses setup tools SCM, which is I forget how it works. I think it predates the metadata stuff. Yeah. Anyway, setup tools SCM is a tool to apply the version file to your output and use metadata more. But I don't need it because we're not using it. Dockerfile. So I expect Dockerfile to fail because it uses a setup tools extension as well. What is blue? Oh, go. Cool. So it uses custom extension and a custom keyword entry to build some extensions, and C extensions aren't supported by the declarative metadata. That's the same reason that future breakpoint is going to fail. Precommit installed is also going to fail because it's a giant hack. I am not at all proud of this project. I made it just because I wanted to see if I could, not because if I should. But it does some terrible installation time side effects, just because I wanted to see if it was possible. And it turns out it is. Future F strings. That one fails because I do some tricky stuff in the setup.py to install this PTH file. So that's why that one's not working. That's fine, we don't care about that. Yelp Cheetah has a C extension, so we'll skip that one. VMV update probably does the same version thing. Nope. It does some other stuff to find the version. Yeah, we won't support that either, but that's fine. Setup tools, wait. Yeah, setup tools Golang examples is gonna have the same problem as the Dockerfile one, is it uses the setup tools extension. More of these are failing than I expected. PyTest uses setup tools SCM as well, so that's why that one's failing. PyTerminal size, that one has a C extension, and that's the last one. Okay, so we generated our log, and so now we want to grep for this. What is wrong with this regex? Beginning of the line starts with a plus, then any number of not white space characters. Oh, and then a space. There we go. Okay, these are all of the top level keys that are being used. So it's not actually that many. And it looks like some of them are entry points. So we'll ignore those. Oh, that's kind of annoying. Wait, this looks wrong. This2tils.setup keywords. What? Oh, okay, never mind. This is another entry points thing. This is a way to define your own callbacks for setup.py so that you can have your own setup.py entries. And apparently, well, I knew this project did. I forgot about this one, and I knew this one did. Okay, so that's what that's about. This is the entry point stuff again. More entry points. Okay, so let's go from there. So the first thing that we'll want to do is sort the sections. And so the sections that we care about are I forget. Okay, so metadata and options are the first two that we always want. I have too many tabs. Why do I have so many tabs? So metadata options, then we also have entry points. Oh. I see. So there's options.packages.find, which should probably come next. Options.sections.find, and then we'll want these sections next. You know, I don't use this one, so we'll just skip it. No, we'll add it just for completeness. What did I just do? Oh. Control-Shift-Tab apparently de-indents in Nano. I didn't know that. Now I know. Okay, so that'll be the order of all of the sections that we'll rewrite to. So now we just need to worry about all of these keys. So in metadata, we'll have an ordering of keys. I think for these lower ones, we'll just do sorted. But for the upper ones, we'll have a very specific order. Like it'll probably be name and then version will be next. Those are the two most important. Let's go back to our. Let me just grep out the ones we know we don't need. Pigments. What is typed? I don't know. Oh, typed is probably the name of an extra. Actually, I know what project that's from. Yeah, it's an extras require. Okay, author email, classifiers, description. No, we'll get rid of 2. Keywords. Exclude. Oh, that's from the find call. All requires license. I'm surprisingly I don't have any license file ones yet. But we'll get to that. Long description, name, packages, platforms. Oh, we do have platforms. Really? Platforms. Oh. I'm pretty sure these are all wrong, because it's supposed to be a list, not a string. Setup.py platforms. Yes. Description, a list of platforms. Using a list is the correct syntax. Okay, so any of these that have platforms are wrong. Well, these ones are wrong. It should be a list. But actually, when it gets migrated, it won't matter so much. That's fine. Oh, I have Python requires in some of my projects. That surprises me. Oh, yes, in one of my projects. Eight. Oh, talks is not a thing. What is universal from? Oh, I see. Huh, that's weird. I'm surprised that it made this a I'm surprised it did it like this instead of just inserting this above. Oh, I guess I had metadata with license file before. Huh, okay. Never mind, less confused. URL and version. Okay, so these are the keys that we want to work with. It's surprisingly shorter than I thought it would be. Okay, so I think it makes sense to have name and then version to be first. And then we can kind of go from here. I think classifiers will be last. Name, version, description, long description, content type. Then URL, author, email, and then probably license file, and classifiers. Now I gotta get platforms in there too. And whatever else we're missing. So author email, classifiers, we did description. We don't care about exclude. This will get handled in options. Let's see, keys, order, options. Packages, Py modules, and install requires. I don't remember where Python requires goes. One thing it tells me right here. Also there it seems. So where were we? Install requires license, the two descriptions, name, we did packages, platforms, Py modules, Python requires URL, yes, and version. Okay, that covers all of the current keys that I have, so that's good. I'll figure out how to sort them later. I haven't really figured out how I'm going to do that yet. Yeah, let's take one of these packages and just try and do, or like throw a debugger in here and hack on it. Ooh, we can use breakpoint. As long as I install future breakpoint. So we're just going to run it on ourselves because that's going to be the simplest thing to do. And does this do J0 by default? I think so. And we're at our breakpoint. Okay, so we're going to use config parser to rewrite the file, which is just standard lib. And I can never remember how to use it. Fortunately, we have this little doc or demo of it here. Read. So in order to do this sorting, we need to, I think, make a new config parser and copy everything from this one over. So let's see how we're going to do that. Or we can modify in place, maybe? Yeah, I guess I'll modify in place. That seems the easiest. Okay, let's start this over. What? Oh, did I not write out the file? Okay. That gets our sections at least. Okay, so that allows us to remove a section. Is there a way to reorder them? Probably not. Oh, let's remove. I was looking for move. Order. The order of the keys will be ordered because dict preserves order from Python 3.7. It also preserves it in 3.6, so we're gonna depend on that. If the use dictionary type preserves order, yeah, cool. Okay, so that seems fine. And the other task is going to be sorting the keys inside the dictionary. Fortunately, I've done this before, I think. PDB is lame, try PUDB. Yeah, I've used PUDB before. I can never remember how to quit it. It's kind of like Vim. The reason I use PDB is it's always there, and like if I'm working on someone else's computer, I'll be able to just use it. JSON, I think it was this thing. Top keys. I guess that's one way to do it. Fortunately, so I'm going to be mutating this object here, so I can kind of abuse that fact. And just like pop items until there's nothing left, and then jam the rest in. I think. We'll try that. This eagerly returns the value? Okay, cool. Okay, so first I want to use this sections order up here. Use containment. I think I can actually just make this a mapping. MyPy is gonna get mad. We'll deal with MyPy later. Oh, actually, and then I can just combine these two data types together. And we only have one constant. Oh, you were kidding about PDB. Okay, got it. I have used it before. It seems nice. I'm not smart enough to use it. What are the arguments to find packages? Just tell me. Setup tools find packages. Where, exclude, and include. Entry points, I want console scripts to always be first. Just because. Extras require, and these ones don't have any specific. Okay. And MyPy is gonna be mad because it sees this and assumes it's tuple of stir instead of tuple of any number of strings, and so then it gets confused with the rest of these. So I'm going to have to annotate this as tick stir tuple stir ... Do I actually want this as a dictionary? I don't think so. I think I actually want tuple of stir, tuple stir. Thank you, DRX Design, for following. Every follow counts. Yeah, so we don't actually need a mapping type here because we're not going to be using it as a mapping type. We're just going to be using it as an iteration. Now I have to change all these colons. commas. Oh, this was already a parenthesis, or did I fix that one first? Or was it a mistake? Yeah, we'll get to that later. Okay, so this helps us define our key order. So we've removed it from the configuration. Now we're going to put it into our temporary sections mapping. And then we'll stick the sections mapping back into the configuration. And that's how we're going to sort these. Initialize our mapping. And then we're going to iterate over our keys and pop them from the configuration section and put them into our data. That'll basically allow us to like pull the keys that we care about out and stick them on top, and then we'll sort the keys at the bottom. At least that's my plan. Section. So we'll remove all of the keys from the configuration section and put them into this. And then after that, we'll resort any remaining keys and add them. Values view. What? What is going on here? Wait, if we remove it from the configuration, does that make it no longer work? That seems problematic. Okay, so that gives us items. If we pop it, does that make this no longer a live object? Oh, that's so shitty. Why? Why would they do that? That's fine, I guess. We can just pop it at the end. Yeah, like I kind of wish that it worked as a mapping of mappings. Well, that's not English, so I'm gonna translate that. Let's see. Translate.google.com. Sarcastic Dante says good evening in Japanese. Well, good evening to you as well. According to Google Translate, so that's what I'm trusting. So if it's wrong, blame Google. Okay, so we need to keep the section in the configuration until we're done mutating it. It's correct this time. Yeah, Google Translate can be pretty bad sometimes. Sometimes it's hilarious. Sorted. Does that work? Cool. So I think that will work. I think I can rewrite this as a list comprehension. Or a dict comprehension. In fact, I can. And all that's left is to put all of the sections that we don't care about in order in. For section in this, oh, we need to also put it into sections. And we'll just sort the values here. Or should we keep their order? I don't know. I guess we'll just keep their order. Oh, I kind of like sorting them though. Let's not sort them. We will just copy them in. I think that's all we need to do. Let's see what that does. Do I have 2 breakpoints? I do. Use my... right. What's up, Starky Blood? Thanks for following. Every follow counts. Keys order, not key order. Okay, I should be slightly more successful now that I've actually fixed the lint errors. Oh, it returns because it's the last statement in here. I am back from vacation, Shoddy. How's it going? It was good. Well, this is not at all what I expected. Why is this section first? No, it should be last. What's up, Starky Blood? What am I coding in Python? It's very, very specific. So there's two ways to, or I guess there's many ways now. The old way of writing a setup.py file for a library in Python was to basically write code that looks like this, where you import setup from setup tools and you call setup with a bunch of keyword arguments, and like this is what I refer to as like the code way of writing a setup.py. Turns out, as of setup tools 30.3 or something like that, you can now specify all of that metadata as metadata in a INI file. And so instead of writing code, you would write data, and then setup tools will read this and install your package as normal. And so I wrote a tool called setup.py upgrade, which takes the setup.py code and converts it to setup.py metadata. And so now I'm trying to take this tool that I wrote and combine it with another tool that I wrote called all-repos and apply that transformation to every repository that I own / maintain, which somewhere around it's getting larger and larger. It's somewhere around like 45 now, 49. So I'm going to try and apply it to all 49 of these packages at the same time, automatically is the goal. And so right now what I'm doing is like nitpicky stuff, like making sure all of the fields are in the order that I want them to be in. I realize now, looking at this, why Beatus Wheel got listed first. It's because Pretty Print is lying to me. If I remember correctly, and I was just reading a bug report about this. It sorts everything, and there's no way to configure it. So my dictionary is probably in the correct order, but there's no way to know. Sounds awesome. I love Python. Still new to it, but really enjoying it. Yeah, Python's alright. I look at more at the Python in AI and machine learning. Yeah, it's really good for that stuff. Unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on your opinion about it, I haven't written much or any machine learning or scientific programming in Python. I know Python is really good for it. That's one of the few things that I haven't tried at all. Partially because I don't really have the background for it. Like, I took a bunch of statistics and math in college, but like, it was never really something that super interested me. What do I use R? No, I just don't do much data sciencey stuff with Python. The closest that I got to like a data science language is probably Maple or MATLAB back in the day. No, it's fine. It's completely fine. But yeah, I haven't had a chance to do any data sciencey stuff recently, or statistics at all. But yeah, back to this. I realized that PP or Pretty Print is lying to me about the ordering, which is unfortunate because I kind of want to see the ordering without reading through this. But it does look like this did what I wanted, and that's good. Cool. It does look like I'm going to have trouble with this tab character that we saw last time, which is annoying. config parser apparently is hard-coded to always produce tabs in the output. And I had this little workaround before where I would replace a tab with 4 spaces. I also apparently had to replace trailing whitespace with just a new line, but I will fix that in the same way again, probably with these same 4 lines. Actually, might as well just copy and paste them right now and put them in there. Can you not do this? Copy and paste these characters. I'm not sure. Yeah, I could do triple coded strings. I don't need to here though. The problem is that I don't control, where did that code go? I don't control this code here, and that code does an undesirable thing of sticking tabs in my files. And so I'll be killing those tabs. Or did you mean for this 4-space indent here that's kind of hard to see? Like, I might write this instead as space times 4, just so it's a little bit more readable, but not a huge deal here. But yeah, we'll use this when we eventually write out the string IO. But this does look correct, and if we look at this before, after we stuck it back in. This is after we stuck them back in. Is there another way around \n? Oh yeah, I guess that's the only 2 ways you would write it. You would either like have a literal with the escape sequence, or you could make a triple coded string which just contains a new line. If it's a short string that has new lines, I tend to prefer this approach because it's a little easier to see what's going on, but sometimes not. Like 6 in one, half dozen the other. The problem with this is it's too easy to like accidentally put something else in there and then suddenly your string is not great. Also, it's not super obvious from reading that this is just supposed to be a short string that only contains a new line. But such is life. Not everything's perfect. That's why most things are broken. That's why we write code. Alright, so at this point there should be no section. Oh wait, this is the first breakpoint. Let me get rid of that first breakpoint because that's confused me a bunch of times. Okay, cool. So we've killed all the sections. That's good. Apparently I shouldn't say the word killed because that's how you get demonetized on YouTube. Good thing I'm not monetized, so it's all good. Okay, so it does look like it's sorting correctly, and it looks like it's inserting back into the section correctly. B71. So many Linux commands can get you penalized, yeah. Yeah, there's only so many like killing of childs that you can get away with, or forking parents. But yeah, and it looks like it's put the metadata back in properly, so that's good. Okay, so we have done the sort keys part. Let me move these to-dos up since we should do this before we do any of the sorting. Oh dear, yeah. Programmer terms demonetized YouTube. Okay, never mind. I thought there was a... I remember reading like an article about this and thought maybe I could Google and find it. But apparently not. So, rip me. Still want that tab. Okay, so I killed my to-do. Where's my to-do? Here we go. All right. So the first thing to do is replace dashes with underscores in the name field. So that's easy to do. Okay, got that done. Another beautiful day in winter. Yeah, how's Michigan, David? We'll look at my old area code. Or wait, 48371. That's where my dad lives. This tiny, tiny town of Oxford. I like how it just zoomed in on Meyer. 22 Fahrenheit, so like -4 Celsius, -5, somewhere around there. Kind of cold. It's not much better in California right now. I mean, it's a little better. 94401. 52. Little chilly. Low of 40. Doesn't quite freeze here. Meyer is actually the only thing in Oxford worth mentioning. Yeah. Meyer was so important that they built a subdivision across the street from it. But yeah, I was in Key West yesterday, and the weather is a bit nicer there. But anyway, sidetracked. Okay, add long description and long description content type. So one of the cool things about the way the all-repos autofixers work is this function will always run in the root of the repository, so it's really easy to just like check stuff. Oh, why did they make this key so long? Okay, did that. So all of the software that I've written so far is MIT licensed, as far as I remember. Does it say that somewhere in here? No. How do I know that it's MIT licensed? I guess I could just like copy some string out of here. MIT license unique string. I don't know how to identify that this is this license type. Just assume that this is a big enough string. We know we can always set license file. That one's easy. But now I need to read the contents of this. You really want to find a library that is capable of checking project licenses. Also worth considering license.txt, copying.txt, or copying. Yeah, definitely. Or the alternate spelling of license with a Z, which is apparently used some places. Or is it a C, maybe? Yeah, British spelling was with a C. L-I-S-E-N-C-E, yeah. Yeah, if I were to, I definitely agree. If I were gonna make this feature complete, I would handle all those other cases. I'm probably gonna do that as more of like a follow-up, because I happen to know all of mine use just the same setup, but if other people wanted to add that feature, that'd be a really easy way for them to get started on the project. But yeah. See, Python library for identifying licenses. Is there such a thing? This is actually hilarious. This first project here is actually one of my projects. Well, it's not strictly my projects, but one of the projects that I can contribute to. In fact, if we look at contributors, it's probably me, and then yeah. Good try, Google. I don't even know how I'm gonna search for this. License checker? Smile at that achievement. Yeah. What does this do? Your README is terrible. Identify software licenses, Python vector space search ngram keywords. What? Oh boy. This does seem to do what I would maybe want. Kind of. These like confidence intervals. Looks like someone's research project. Looks like you get to do some data science after all. Damn it. Okay. Does their thing... No, it's not even a library. I can't install it. Okay, well... Not using that one. Oh, this sounds like a thing. Scan code detects licenses by scanning code. I have notification. Oh. Sound like a better way to do it. You could do super silly things like asking the GitHub API. Yeah. Let's not do that. This is a weird mix of languages. Why is there PHP? What is this doing? I just want to feed it a file and have it tell me what kind of license it is. Anyway, this seems like a problem that should be really easy, but apparently is not. How does GitHub know what license I am using? What's up, Peppercaster? Thank you for following. Every follow counts. Ruby gem. How does this Ruby gem do it? Apparently it vendors a copy of a bunch of licenses, and then... How does it work? How does it work? Automates the process of reading license files. If the license has an explicit copyright notice and nothing more, it's unlicensed. Cool. Exact map of a known license. If we strip away copyright notice, we might get lucky. Fancy math thing. Here we go. Well, I'm not shelling out to Ruby to figure out a license. So for now, we're just going with this crappy, like, one string lookup and calling that good enough. I think it's a bit non-trivial as people edit the license text. Yeah, that's definitely true. Definitely true. I try and keep mine simple, mostly because I don't like doing too much work. So like, this is verbatim MIT, and then this is the only string that I change, and from this I really only change the date. And I know some people are uppity about bumping this number once a year, and I just don't have time for that. It sounds like not a great use of my time. I guess I could use all-repos to automatically rewrite it, but anyway. Okay, so we're just gonna use this we're just gonna use this string to identify it as MIT. Just tuned in. What's the goal? Cool. So in Python, there's many ways to make a library that's distributable. The oldest way is to write a setup. Oh, that's the new way. The old way is to write a setup.py, which imports setup from setup tools, calls the function with a bunch of keyword args. And this is kind of gross because it's hard to automatically modify this or make changes or whatever because it's code. But there's a new way, which is to specify this instead as data in a setup.cfg file. And since it's data, it's easy to modify and like add, reorder, or make changes or whatever you want. And so I made a tool called setup.py upgrade, which converts from the old format to the new format. And then now what I want to do is take this tool and use it with another tool I wrote called all-repos, which is on the tin, clone all your repositories and apply sweeping changes. And the sweeping change that I want to apply here is to apply setup.py upgrade to all my projects so that they will all switch immediately to the declarative approach. Basically Thanos snap and have them all change. Have setup.py die everywhere. Well, now we're getting even more demonetized because die is also a common Unix term that YouTube doesn't like. But what are you gonna do? And so right now I have the like script that rewrites them all, but I'm kind of nitpicking each of the fields and like making sure they're sorted or like automatically setting up the README to get read in, or right now I'm deliberating on how to properly set the license field. All of my stuff is MIT licensed, so it's easy for my simple case here, but if I wanted to better handle generic licenses, I would need some way to identify them all, etc., etc. Oh, what? That's a built-in in Python? Oh, wait. Wait, what? Why is it him? What just happened? This is what I expected to see. But where did this variable come from? What is going? How is this possible? I just typed the word license and it... Does it come from this? Built-ins.license goes printer. Printer, interactive prompt objects for printing the license text. There's is empty apple. I mean, this must be how this thing works. It looks for these two files in site packages or the current working directory. What? Why? I guess you learn something every day, but that was not at all what I expected. It's like, what? Does it work in Python 2? No. This is a Python 3 thing? Yeah, it's a function when it doesn't find anything, but it's a variable that has a repr that produces the result. Apparently, it only works in a virtualenv, so that must mean it's something that that virtualenv is doing. Yeah, it's something that virtualenv is doing. Very weird. Not all modules are required to have a file attribute. If OS is a module or is a non-namespace package. Weird. Okay, I'm behind on questions. Let's see. What do I think of poetry for packaging? I went over this a little bit earlier. I think poetry's fine. It does more work than I need. Like, I'm I'm completely happy with just requirements.txt files and setup.py, or now setup.cfg. Poetry goes a little bit further and kind of like adds its own lock file flavor on top and a couple other things. Don't get me wrong, like I don't want to discourage you from using Poetry or other projects like it. It's just I don't use it because I don't feel like I need to. Yeah, it's kind of weird that virtualenv has a different implementation of this, and why this is different seems weird to me. Yeah, I don't know why it's different there. Pep 420, yeah. Pep 420 is a good one though. It makes it so init.py isn't necessary anymore. Can you get a job of just knowing to code in Python? Yeah, definitely. I'm learning Python through Code Academy website in hopes of becoming a programmer, but I don't know where it will lead me. Like if in the end I will be ready to search for a job. Code Academy is a good place to start. My advice, and maybe it's terrible advice for people that are learning to program, is to find some project that you want to accomplish. Like something, it doesn't have to be a big project, it can be something small. Like something in your life that you think to yourself, hey, it would be cool if like I didn't have to do this menial task on a computer, and then figure out a way to make code automate that problem for you. At least that's how I got started with programming, was like I wanted to build a website that, I forget what it was. I think it was like, I think my first like major project was we wanted quiz submissions for a media productions course in my elementary school. So we basically built this website to do quiz submissions. No, that's the best advice for new programmers. It stimulates the problem-solving part of learning. Yeah. I think I definitely agree with that. I think like the best way to learn is to solve your way through it instead of like following directions. Oh, I mean that chemistry quiz thing, that's true. Thank you, Future Hertz, for following. Every follow counts. Did I show that last time? I think I showed that a couple times ago. But yeah, this was one of the projects I made in high school to study vocab. We had to learn words like remonstrance or what was the other one? Indubitably. But I wrote this really bad vocab quiz with these hideous colors. Yeah, sometimes it's scripts, sometimes it's web apps, sometimes it's like Android or like phone apps. Like it can vary a lot. But this was one of my first projects. It's actually really bad, and you can like super cheat on the quiz because the answers are all just hard coded in hidden inputs here. Yeah. It wasn't the best on the eyes, but like it was good enough for what I needed. Yeah, Discord bots are a good place to start if you use Discord. They're pretty easy to get started with. There's a couple of good frameworks for them. Back in my day it was IRC, and I still participate on IRC channels, and I've contributed to a couple IRC bots. But they're kind of like a good place to start too. Are they in Python? Yeah, some of them are in Python. So there's, I think it's discord.py. Oh, I can't search that. There's a couple of Discord Python libraries. I think this is the one I looked at last time, which seemed pretty good. This goes into a little bit of advanced topics with like async defs. You can mostly pretend like async doesn't do anything though. But yeah, like this is one of the libraries that you can talk to Discord with. I think the JavaScript one is a lot more popular, but this one works well too. Positive Python. Wait, what is Positive Python? I've heard of it, I just can't think of it right now. Is that a... or is that just hashtag for the sake of hashtag? Positive Python is in its 24-hour of sharing happiness and gratitude in the Python community. Cool. Yeah, async IO. Async IO makes me a little nervous too, to be honest. I'm so glad I found this stream because I was losing motivation. Thanks, guys. Well, I don't want to take super credit for this. Kenneth made an IRC channel as the Python one was super toxic. Yeah, Pound Python can be kind of not beginner friendly, which is unfortunate. But yeah, Python is a very good language to learn in. Like, I grumble about some parts of Python, but it's definitely a good, like, beginner-friendly language that teaches you a lot of programming concepts, which is good. Are Python's venomous? There are some parts of the Python community that are not great, and I'll admit that in some parts, like, I've contributed to that as well. So I'm not perfect here either, but like. Generally stay like away from Hacker News and R Python if you want to be positive. R Learn Python isn't much better, like if we're talking about Reddit. Learn Python, I think it is. This one is a much friendlier community than R Python. R Python is really good at telling you that you're stupid and that you should go away from a computer and stop trying to build cool things. Although sometimes people build cool things and they like it, but I've had lots of negative interactions with people on R Python, so I tend to stay away from it, but that's just me. Back to what was I doing? Before I was confused by typing license into a terminal. So weird. Anyway, what was I doing? Oh, license is a built-in. That's why it's highlighted in yellow here. We'll just say contents. I don't remember what the classifiers look like. So I'm going to put a breakpoint here, and we'll run it again after I fix the linting errors. Where's my breakpoint? Oh, it's right here, but since there's no code after the breakpoint, Python puts the next line here. So the execution is actually sitting right here, but it doesn't show that very well. It looks like classifiers is new lines limited and then not containing a new line at the end. But in case it is, want the MIT license right here. How do I decide when to use import or from? So it's a little arbitrary. I tend to follow a pattern that falls apart very quickly. Let me find a better example. So for the standard library, I tend to always use import unless it's from the typing module. This is mostly because the names are short and a lot of the functions in the standard lib don't make sense on their own without the module name there. But again, like, completely arbitrary. Then for pretty much everything else, I'll use from imports. Unless, again, like, the function makes no sense without the module there. So for instance, like YAML, I'll import YAML and do YAML.load instead of from YAML import load, because load by itself is not super helpful. But then you can break down how you import to an even further level. So you can from import modules, which is what's happening here. So like I'm importing the CLI module or the get module. Or I can import functions directly. So like I'm importing load config directly here. And there it really depends on, like, again, whether the function name stands on its own or like the length of the module or function name. Or just how I'm feeling on that day, but it doesn't really matter to me. Hi, when is Python 4 coming out? That's a good question. There's some debate in the community on whether it will become 3.10 or if it will become 4. I hope it's Python 4 because 3.10 is going to break so much code if it happens, including like Pip Tools is broken. Let's see. 3.8 release date. So they tend to do a release once a year or so. Python 3.9 release schedule. Maybe they haven't done one yet. Looks like they haven't made the PEP for 3.9 yet. Let's see, 3.7 came out 2018 June, and 3.8 is supposed to come out 2019, was that October? So you would expect 3.9 in 2020, like January? And 3.10 or 4.0 in 2021, so somewhere around 2021 would be my guess. Unless they go with 3.10 and then we just never have Python 4. What is the typing module? So PEP 44 talks about gradual type hints in Python. And so the typing module provides a lot of the kind of basic classes that you would use from the standard library or from the base interpreter. And let me find the example. Yeah, so you can type annotate functions in Python 3 by using this syntax. So this says this function should be of the parameter type string and it should return string. However, on their own, the type annotations don't do anything. They're kind of like comments for the programmer. But you can use tools such as MyPy, which is a static type checker for Python. And so I'm actually using MyPy on this project. So if I pre-commit run MyPy, I'll introduce a type error if this doesn't have any type errors. Oh, it does. Let's see. So, for example, this function says that it returns an integer. So if I got rid of the return statement here, MyPy will tell me that, hey, you're missing a return statement. It prints it a bunch of times because of the way that pre-commit runs it, but if I were to run just MyPy once, it would just print this. Like, I guess if I did files, all-repos, clone.py. So you can see, like, it knows that that should have a return statement on it. And by default, MyPy is just gradual typing, so you can annotate as little or as much as you want, and whatever functions you annotate, MyPy will type check them for you, which is kind of nice. It gives like a little bit of safety net to a pretty dynamic cowboy language. Well, people have negativity inside themselves due to someone throwing it to them since we were born, so it makes it a vicious cycle that presents itself in all kinds of forms. That being said, I never believe any type of negativity that comes in my direction or that I perceive as negative as a definition of myself or as an absolute truth of reality in the moment. Yeah, don't take negativity personally is excellent advice. Typing, it's a bit like C++'s concepts. Yeah, a little bit. Does everyone use Nano now instead of Vim? No, I am just I'm just a noob. So I have like a short story about this. I'll give you the brief version. I started programming and used like Notepad or like crappy text editors on Windows. My first job was at a Java C# shop, which is really hard to say. And there I used Visual Studio, and I absolutely loved it. Visual Studio is a great IDE. Basically, tab enter, and it writes all your code for you. When I got my first job out of college, it was at a Python shop. I didn't know Python, and that was fine. And I used Eclipse to edit code, and it was okay, but Eclipse is pretty clunky. Then I switched to IntelliJ because it was much better. This was before PyCharm was a thing, so IntelliJ had you would pay for IntelliJ and then use the Python plugin. Eclipse or Python, yeah. Ugh. I hated Eclipse, and it was better than nothing. But then, so I used IntelliJ and it was great. Then I worked remote for a couple weeks, and the way I had IntelliJ configured, it was just way too slow to basically copy code over the network from the other side of the country. And so I stopped using IntelliJ while I was on break. And the only terminal editor that I had really learned or used in college was Nano, and that was really only to do very, very basic things. And so I fell back on using Nano while I was remote. And unfortunately, like, the muscle memory stuck really well, and I was slower using IntelliJ after that, oddly enough. So I've just kind of stuck with it since then. That's not to say that I don't know how to use Vim. I'm good enough to use Vim. I know how to press insert and like undo things, and I know how to quit and all those fun things. And I know about like visual mode and like sorting things. Wait, where did it go? Wait, Shift V sort. Oh, it did sort them, but there's a bunch of blank lines. But anyway, I do actually know how to use Vim. I'm not a complete noob. But I'm just faster at Nano, so I continue to use it. I don't think I've ever heard someone say they like Eclipse. There are nice parts to it, but it's just kind of slow and clunky. I use IntelliJ like a noob. IntelliJ is great. Go ahead and use it. Don't feel like a noob. It's great. I wasn't judging, I just never understood Vim. Wondering if Nano is much easier to use. Yeah, it is much easier to use. I also use Nano in a mode where, so the normal mode of Nano, which setting is it? This one. So normally when you open Nano, you have all of the key combinations at the bottom, so that if you ever forget, the common ones are here. So like, O is to write the file. You can always do G to get more help. V and Y are for paging. And those are the basics. But I turn the help off because it gives me 2 more lines at the bottom. And at this point I've mostly memorized all of the useful key combinations. Although I learned one this morning. So tab indents as you would expect, and Control-Shift-Tab will unindent. I think Control-I, nope. Control-I indents, but Shift-I does not. Anyway, whatever. Would you guys recommend learning JavaScript after completing the Codecademy Python, or something else more related to Python in order to become more complete as a programmer? JavaScript is a good language to learn because, well, I can't say JavaScript is a good language. It has problems. But it's certainly one of the most popular languages. Let's see, top languages, top programming languages. Where's the, this is the website. So over the years, JavaScript has only increased from what I've seen. And so it is a very important language to learn. JavaScript as a language has a lot of problems around like how the type system works, and like there's a lot of easy ways to shoot yourself in the foot, but it's not a bad language, and it's gotten better and better with the ECMAScript updates and such. I'd recommend mastering one programming language before jumping onto another. That being said, fuck JavaScript. Yeah, I can agree with that. Although, funny enough, my first programming job, I was hired as a JavaScript engineer. But I haven't written much JavaScript since then. Most of my JavaScript has been like user scripts in the browser since then. But yeah, it happens. Developing in a VM heart. Yes, I use a VM mostly because I'm really bad at bricking Linux machines one way or another. And so a VM gives me a nice way to kind of start over if I break things, which I tend to do. It just happens. Okay, so we're just gonna... Where were we? Okay, we were appending the classifier for the MIT license. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna put it in there even if it's already in there, and we'll write some code later to dedupe and sort the classifiers. Python when you can, JavaScript when you must. Yeah. I do it so I don't have to restart when I want to play games. Yeah, that's the other thing. That's why I run Windows, is so that I can play video games. So I totally resonate with that. Okay, so we did this. We added that. Add the necessary Python classifiers. I don't know what to do for that. Can you program a machine like a dishwasher with Python? I mean, probably, technically. There's MicroPython, which is a alternate implementation of Python that targets microcontrollers, which I've seen people use. It doesn't support everything that CPython does, but it works-ish. There's also things like Raspbian, which run a full distribution of Python, where you can write whatever you want to it and kind of do embedded software that way. But yeah, you can program low-level things with Python. It's not the best for it, because Python is a very, very high-level language and interpreted, so it tends to be slower than your typical like C or C++. But you can definitely use it, and I myself have not written anything for low-level stuff in Python. The only low-level stuff I've written is either handcrafted assembly or C++. But you can. It's possible. Did I write tests in JavaScript, or for work, or in general, or I write lots of tests. I really like tests. I have not written any tests today though, mostly because I want to just hack on this and see how it works, and then probably test it later. I do totally the opposite. I use Linux to not procrastinate with games. Yeah, force myself to reboot before I can play video games. Do you think with Python 4 things will be faster? Python constantly gets faster each release. For instance, let me just show you like some very hand-wavy benchmarks. So to run like a trivial program in, oh, this is wildly variant. Let's just import something. Typing, for instance. It's a little more consistent. So in Python 3.6, importing typing takes 0.4 of a second. In 3.7, it's supposed to be faster. Yeah, after the initial import to put it into memory. But like 3.7 improved the import speed of some stuff. Well, it's not super consistent, but take my word for it. Python is constantly getting like incrementally faster. That said, I think CPython will pretty quickly hit a brick wall. Mostly because the strategy it takes isn't like a compile to bytecode and then run a state machine over bytecode is always going to have the overhead of running that state machine. And I think to get to the next level, they kind of need to do like what PyPy is doing. So PyPy is a just-in-time compiler. So what it does is it takes the compiled bytecode and then sees where the hot spots in the code are and then optimizes it to native code. And it does that on the fly as the program is running. And so I think this style of approach of just-in-time compiling interpreted languages will make Python much faster in the future. It's kind of what happens with JavaScript interpreters today. So like V8 and Chakra, which is the V8 is the Chrome JavaScript engine, and Chakra is, well, now deprecated, but the the Microsoft engine. And I don't remember what Mozilla's is called. I know Gecko is their like rendering engine. I forget what their JavaScript engine is called, but each of them are just-in-time compilers. So they take code and then optimize it on the fly to run it. Oh, I answered your question. You want to know if I wrote tests for the feature I'm working on today? Not yet. But yeah, I will eventually write tests for it, but not yet. Actually, one kind of cool thing to show about JIT compilers. There's this. So PyPy is Python written in a subset of Python which has a JIT compiler. PyPy.js, and I actually helped a tiny bit with this project, not that much, not enough to take credit for it, but PyPy.js took mscripten, which is a way to take like executables and then compile them to LLVM and then take the LLVM and turn it into JavaScript so that you can run it in the browser. But this is actually Stone? How do I run PyStone? Oh, it's in test. Test import PyStone. How do I... PyStone.pystones. This is just like a very basic benchmark. It's my computer lags. But you can see like the way a JIT compiler works is it realizes the slow parts of the code and it gets faster. So the first call took 2.2 seconds, and then after that it took 1.5. And if I run this a few more times, you can see like it generally bottoms out at like 0.05 of a second. But if I took that same code and run it, how many iterations did I do? 1,000? What? PyStones with an S. This one is fast, but we'll ignore that one. So the crazy thing is like, oh, well, this is a virtual machine, but sometimes the JavaScript implementation in the browser of the mscripten PyPy, which is a JIT Python, will sometimes be faster in the browser than it will be running on my computer, which I think is pretty funny. Doesn't Numba already use LLVM? I think it does. I don't know enough about it to answer that though, but I think you're right. But yeah, this is like surprisingly fast Python in the browser using using mscripten. The thing that I worked on for this, let's see, I forget how to use. There's a way to access JavaScript variables, but I forget how. And so like you can play with jQuery using PyPy.js. but I don't remember how it works. Where's the, like, samples? Oh, no, that's not what I wanted. Benchmarks. JS Bridge, here's what I was talking about. Anyway, I forget. there's some like cool demos where you can use it to modify stuff using jQuery or JavaScript. But I worked on, or the part that I contributed to PyPy.js was marshalling JavaScript arrays to Python lists and back, and making that work. But that was a long time ago. Close all these tabs. We're back to our place. And we ask again, what was I working on? Oh, I was talking to myself about how am I gonna do this, and I think I'll skip these and do them later. Although I kind of want to run all of these at the same time, so maybe... So I want a heuristic of like the minimum Python version to support and then update all the versions based on that. So my projects right now mostly support either Python 2.7 and then 3.5 and up, or 3.6 and up, and I have a single project that only supports 3.7. But I don't accurately represent that in the metadata at all. So if I look at like some random project of mine, I think this one's probably up to date. But yeah, like this lists 2.7, 3.6, and 3.7. But I'm sure I have some projects that don't list them as well. Let's see, we'll look at one of my oldest projects, see if that has it. Oh. This one is missing 3.7, but probably works in it. But anyway, like I want some way to automatically do that, but I'm gonna not bother with that today because I think it's gonna be more work than it's worth. The last part is to sort these classifiers. And so conveniently we keep this empty string at the beginning because it has to start with a new line. So that seems fine. And so this will both deduplicate and sort the classifiers. Sorted. And I think that's probably enough for what I wanted to do today. And so now I'm going to run this and see what it does. So yeah, let's see what we've built. So dry run, so we make sure it doesn't modify things. Okay, so we remove the old setup.py, and then we created a setup.cfg, which has the new metadata version. It added the long description, which we didn't have before, which is good. We added the license bits, which weren't there before as well. Oh, fun type annotations. Yeah, for any of my new Python 3 projects, I've been trying to type annotate and use MyPy. This is the configuration that I use for MyPy. So I force it to check all functions, whether or not I've put type definitions. I prevent generics that don't have their type specifier. I require the entire function to be type annotated, and I require all of the functions to be type annotated. This seems like it would conflict with this, but then I turn it off down here for tests because I don't bother type annotating tests. No implicit optionals. Oh, I disallow. So in Python you can write def f. You can technically write this, and MyPy will know to implicitly promote that to optional int. But I don't like this feature, so I turn it off. I don't see that a lot, despite it being added in Python 3.5. So the typing module was added in 3.5, but type annotations go all the way back to like 3.4 or 3.3, I think. I think the reason that they weren't adopted so much is there wasn't a great syntax for annotating local variables. So like in Python 3.5, if I wanted to say x is an int, this was a syntax error. But they added this in 3.6, and so this was enough to get me to switch. Like because I was able to annotate local variables, like that made it enough of a value add without the inconvenience of the wacky type comment stuff to switch. But yeah, I think that's mostly why it hasn't seen that much adoption. Also because type checkers, let's be real, type checkers are kind of annoying. Like, I really like type checkers because I think they're really helpful, but I can see why people don't like them as much. But that is just me. Let's see what happens if I run this on setup.py upgrades. Since this one I already moved. Oh, that's cool. So the... Oh, shit. I used the wrong syntax here. Well, it's a good thing I checked before just running it, I guess. Which file was that? Good thing I tried it, I guess. But yeah, cool. Now it's doing what I want. So even if it's already been migrated, this script will sort this file for me, which is pretty cool. That actually makes me kind of think I should split this this fixer thing out into its own separate tool, or maybe combine it with the migration tool itself. Just because I think it'll be useful to like ensure that this metadata stays in the right order in the future. I think it's also that a lot of people who write Python aren't as classically trained. Like, I learned Python first on my own, and seeing languages that require type declarations was a trip. Yeah, that's true. Let's see, my first language was Visual Basic 6, which has types, but it's not strongly typed, if I remember right. It's a lot of like, everything is an object and you box when you need stuff. It's VB6. Visual Basic. I don't even remember what the code looks like, but I do remember seeing this this Form 1 dialogue. Oh yeah, you would do this dim as integer, but you wouldn't. I don't think you needed to do this. Yeah, you could just like set stuff without it, maybe? I don't remember. It's been a long time. I started with Visual Basic. My next language was PHP, which has no types. Everything is a string. Then I did Java, which is typed, and I actually really liked Java for. Oh my god, I'm so sorry. Yeah, PHP was that was a fun time. Also, it was PHP 3, so it was before PHP had classes or namespaces or any of that stuff. It was just like, literally everything is global, everything is a string. Good luck. Then I used Java. I actually kind of like Java. It's a little bit verbose. I get why people don't like Java. Only PHP is doing WordPress nonsense. Yeah. Oof. think I got a security vulnerability just reading that. But yeah, then I did Java, which I liked. It was okay. I did C# after that, which I really, really liked. I really like C#. C# is like Java with like nice things. Kotlin is kind of fixing the Java issue. Yeah, I've recently done some Kotlin. I like Kotlin. I wish it had trailing commas, but you can't have everything, I guess. But yeah, I've been doing some Kotlin recently to work on my game. Let's see what's some file that. Yeah, Kotlin's a lot nicer because it cuts out a lot of the Java boilerplate and it compiles down to JVM, so it's easy to interop with other Java. I think it actually can compile to Java even, but it has nice things, so it's slightly better. I'm learning C# for Unity. It's fun and feels less intimidating compared to C++ or even Java. Yeah, that's definitely true. And then I went to college. In college, it was C++ or C++ or C++. I went to the University of Michigan, and that's basically all they teach there. There's a little bit of C, but it was pretty much C++ or bust. C++ or bust. I can't even talk. But this is some of the Kotlin that I've written. It's not great, but I like Kotlin. It's nice. I mean, this code is not great because I originally wrote it in 2012 when I didn't know any better, and this is recently a straight port from Java to Kotlin. I basically clicked the button in Android Studio that said, please change this file for me, and then it just did it. What about Python for games? So I haven't written any games in Python. I know there's Pygame, which is a really popular framework. If I remember right, it's all just like 2D games though. Or just like really silly demos like this. I haven't seen any like large games written with Pygame. I think most of the stuff that I've seen or worked on is in Unity, which is C#. Or like very, very low level graphics manipulation in C++. Pygame, it's used a lot in AI research. Yeah, that fits with my mental model. It's not like a full game engine, but it's nice for like 2D demo stuff. Or like really silly vector games, I guess. Yeah, so that's that. Stunt cat is the next Fortnite. Yeah, we're all gonna be stunt catting instead of flossing. I think I just died a little bit. Right, so the next kind of things, so I'm doing this in the opposite order of what I usually would, mostly because I like prototype this first and then I'm gonna maybe write some tests now, but actually no, that's boring. I don't want to write tests. I'll write tests later when you guys don't have to sit here and watch me write tests. So now what I want to do is run it and have it generate some pull requests. So I'm going to remove dry run and do just a single repo, and then it'll make some pull requests against other stuff. What's tests? Oh, you're asking earnestly, not sarcastically. Okay. So it's especially important in like dynamic languages to like you write some code and then you write code that makes sure that code works or continues to work. And so like I'll take an example from a project where it's a little easier to see. So this project is called PyUpgrade, and what it does is it takes some old syntax. So in Python 2.6 you had to write this to make a set of integers, but in Python 3 or Python 2.7 you can write it like this. And so, thank you Monday's Dusk for following, every follow counts. And so what PyUpgrade does is it'll take this syntax and automatically convert it to this. So if we see this before and we run PyUpgrade on that file, it'll say that it rewrote the file, and then you'll see that it's rewritten this syntax automatically for me. And so one of the tests that I have for this is I've given it some input strings and expected output strings, and I will continually run these tests every time I make a change to make sure that these continue to work. The tool that people tend to use in Python is a tool called PyTest, which, surprise, surprise, I'm one of the maintainers of PyTest, so I spend some amount of my free time working on PyTest. Oh, I've fallen out of the top 6, dang it. I'm very, very close behind though. But yeah, I spend some amount of my time contributing to PyTest. But tests help you ensure that code continues to work from now until the future. So I have like 250 or 275, actually like 284 if you include the ones that are skipped. It's actually not Flub that passed me, it's Blue-Eyed Daniel has been very busy on PyTest recently. You can see his giant spike here, and I contribute in more of like a slow trickle. But yeah, Blue-Eyed recently passed me. Club hasn't been super active since like 2017, I guess. And then there's like the original author hasn't really done much since 2016, and Benjamin sometimes does stuff, but not in the last couple of years. The people that are most active are Bruno, Ronnie, Daniel, and me. And a couple other people spend some time on PyTest, but yeah, like I have around 280 cases that I make sure continue working in this project, and it also helps. So when I make a change, so let's say I intentionally broke something. So what if I change this to just like, I don't know, broke the code intentionally. My test should expose a test failure for there. Turns out there's a single test failure that fails there. Do you know of any good Git hook managers? Are you... Is this a... Do you know the answer to this question? I feel like this is a directed question. That you already know that I maintain one. So I maintain a Git hook manager called precommit. Which if you want to check out, it's pre-commit.com. But it's one of those things where if you haven't used it before, you don't realize like how much time it saves you. Oh no, you didn't know. Okay, well then you're in for a quick sell for me then. Mindful Fox believes there's some shenanigans at foot, which I suspect as well. But anyways, precommit is a user space GitHooks manager. The way you set it up is you have this precommit configuration, and it basically says I want to configure these different repositories and what sort of checks I want to run, and precommit will manage installing those and running those when necessary. And it supports a bunch of different tools and a bunch of different languages. It's written in Python, but it also supports like JavaScript and such. It's I don't know, it's my baby. It's my project that I probably spend the most time on. I don't know. Check it out if you haven't before. But if you've seen like when I commit, you'll see stuff that looks like this, and that's precommit running with a bunch of different hooks. And some of them are ones that I've written. So like PyUpgrade is one of the code formatters, and it rewrites stuff for me. Will you name your firstborn son after precommit? Probably not. I think that future wife would be really mad at me. So test is like the if statement in function, kind of. let me look at how I wrote some of these tests. So generally with tests, you run a function and you look at its return value, and you use like an assert statement. It's basically like writing code that's like if, so like return value equals some function call, and then if return value does not equal expected value. Thank you TuxORM for following, or TuxZorm. I don't know how to pronounce it, but that's what we're gonna go with. So it's basically like saying like if this return value is not what you expect it to be, like raise an error, raise some sort of failure. So you basically write a bunch of functions that are like test1 that are basically this pattern over and over. And so a test is kind of like an assertion that your code works to some extent. How's your day going, TuxORM? How do you pronounce it? Is it TuxORM? It's extra code you write to make sure other code you wrote is working as you expect. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Are you a real ORM? I don't see it. It's just images of tuxedos and people's faces, I guess. But yeah, so I ran my fixer a while back, and it automatically created this pull request for me. Somebody already approved it too. Trolls. But yeah, it didn't actually do what it says on the tin here. It just reordered this. But it still automatically created this automatically. Tux comes from Linux, which is the penguin mascot, or the Linux penguin mascot, yeah. Linux Tux. Y'all like Tux. He's pretty cool. I used to have a plushie of Tux, but I must have lost it in a move, because I don't remember seeing it the last time I moved, and I haven't seen it in years, so I might have to get a new one at some point. Yeah, that's what Tux is. But yeah, so the point of all repos is I can run that same fixer against every single one of my projects at the same time. Oh, that was not the repo that I wanted. This one. The penguin is the Linux mascot. Yeah, or I guess, is it official or unofficial? I guess it's GNU Linux mascot to be pedantic. List of computing mascots. Oh boy. Ella PHP and I should have expected it to be a pun. I had no idea until now. By the way, the background music is great. Yeah, so if you want to link to the music, I think it's at the top of the stream description. It's basically just this copyright-free music stream on YouTube. I don't know, I like it. It's chill music. It's not what I like. I usually listen to crappy late 90s, early 2000s punk rock, but I like this music. It's nice and chill. It's unoffensive. HP is supposed to look like an elephant too. Oh no. Oh, I kind of see it. Like this is a P, this is kind of an H, and this is a... Thanks, I hate it. So true. But yeah, I guess since I know that I'll drop frames if I start running this, I'll write some tests for the fixer that I wrote, just to show how I would do that. Normally I would try and write the tests first and then write the code afterwards, but in this case it didn't really make sense to do test-driven development because I didn't really know what I wanted to build until, or I kind of knew what I wanted to build, but I didn't know how I was going to build it. But yeah, let's write some tests. Why not? Pre-commit. Is this the one I copied it from? I think I copied from this one. So, for instance, this is a test that I wrote before. We don't care about this function because we don't have it. It looks like all I tested here was to write out a file and then put some contents in it and then run. Wait, how did this work? Oh, auto-updatable is a fixture that I wrote. Is there a Python tool that runs your tests after saving? You mean like continually runs the tests, like a watcher? I don't know of one, although there's inotify-wait, which is just a standard Linux tool. I wrote a crappy watcher around it. Let's see if I remember how it works. Inotify exec find, let's see, git else files. I guess we'll just run tests whenever any Python file changes. PyTest tests. So then if I were to write out this file, it'll run all the tests. Like, that's kind of a crappy way to make it work. Unfortunately, this project, the tests are pretty slow. Also, why is it running twice? I don't remember how this tool works. It probably sent 2 write events, and my tool doesn't dedupe or whatever. Let's see, how does it work? You can also just run watch, and what watch does is, if I did like watch 8, for instance, it'll run a command every 2 seconds and produce its output. So you could run watch to just like continually run the tests in the background, and it'll eventually update this value. Not as great about like instant feedback though. The way I usually do it is like if I'm modifying a test in one tab, I'll run that specific test. If I was modifying, I don't know, like the auto update test, I would run this test over here, and then in this tab I would I'd like work on an editor over here and like say I changed something to fail. Then I would go over here and switch tabs and run it. Like it's good enough, I guess. Yeah, the unfortunate thing about watch is it doesn't support the coloring. I think there's a way to do it. Color. Interpret ANSI color and style sequences. So I think I could do watch color PyTest color equals on. Color equals yes. And so I think this would maintain the colors. Yeah, it does. I have the same problem with Ccache and distcc. I don't remember what Ccache is. Oh, compiler cache. Yeah, for GCC and such. But yeah, like I could iterate on this in this way. And so like now that I've gotten rid of that assert false, it passes. And it works with color. Neat. But yeah, in this case, we're gonna copy one of the old tests that I had and write a new one. What is this? Setup upgrade test. Turns out colors are kind of helpful when reading C++ walls of template errors and warnings. Yeah. C++ is, you know, it's gotten a lot better. I guess the error messages have not gotten that much better, but the template errors are, whew. You, missing operator overload, and there goes 4 terminals of text. Okay. So I often like typo nano, and have my right hand over by one key. And the funny thing is I've set up an alias so that it just works. Oh, what? My alias is gone. Oh, I got rid of it. We'll put it back though. But I made it so like Babby ever does that. Do I ever do hardware hacking? I do have one project that I did a long time ago that hacked on some hardware. Let me see if I can find some photos of that. I think they're only on Facebook, which is weird to say. Some photos, albums. Where is that? Oh, here we go. So here was a hardware project that I did in college. So we had, oh yeah, my WTF alias is pretty good. Or this one. Alias Nani equals nano, yeah. So I did this hardware hacking project in college. The iClicker is basically a remote control quiz tool. So on the other side, you can't really see it in this photo. Let's see, can you see the other photos? Nope, they're all at the bottom. But it basically has buttons that are like A through E, and you would submit answers to quiz questions in class, and some teachers would use it for attendance or whatever. But I figured out that, find a better picture. Let's see. I found out that the programming pins were just exposed on the back. I didn't want to open a new tab or a new window. So there's 6 programming pins here, and it tells you the name of the processor here. This is a potato quality photo. But I figured out, and you can see my really terrible solder job here because I'm really bad at soldering. But I found that the programming pins were exposed, and the EEPROM was unlocked, so it let me write code to it. And so I did some research, found someone else who had done basically the same project and like mapped out all of the opcodes and what they do to the processor and the other peripherals on the board. And using that knowledge, I was able to write some code to the clicker, which would vote 255 times for C, just because that was what I wanted to try and do. And so we basically would use that to just troll teachers and oh, I didn't know that there were 600 students in this class, of which 255 don't exist. The other thing that we did with this project is there's teacher clickers and student clickers. The teacher clickers are blue and look mostly the same. And it turns out they're exactly the same hardware. The only difference between the teacher clicker and the student clicker is the color of the plastic. And through some, I guess I'll say like social engineering, I guess. Or I guess before that, the serial number of the clickers is written on the back of the device. It's like 8 hexadecimal digits at the bottom. And it turns out only the first 6 hex digits are the ID, and the last 2 are just an XOR. And so like 16 to the 6? So there were only 16 million possible, oh wait. No, that's not right. Is that right? I don't know. There were only 16 million possible. I think it was less than that. So 16 to 5? That looks more right. There were only 1 million possible clicker combinations. I forget the exact number, but it was enough that people were issued the same ID more than once. And the company just hoped that those people didn't go to the same school. But anyway, through social engineering, I was able to find the serial ID or the serial number of the teacher clickers on theirs, and then flash that ID to my clicker. And guess what? Now I'm the teacher. And we use this to just like control people's slides, or like show the quiz answers as the quiz was going on, or just like general trickery. But yeah, that's like the only hardware project I've done. I've been meaning to get back into like playing with hardware, but I haven't done it in a while. But another like kind of sad story about this project is my friend who worked with me on this. He was a econ major, I think. I don't know, but he was really good with a soldering iron. I was complete trash. This was definitely one of my solders because it looks awful. He was really into like internet blogging and like SEO and that sort of stuff. And our dean of students was not very tech savvy at all. And so my friend like blogged about this project and was like, this is like really cool hardware project that we worked on, blah blah blah, this is how we did it, this is what it does, etc., etc. And for a while you could search just like Umish iClicker hack, and his blog would be the first result. But turns out not anymore. Wait, did other people do this? Huh. Anyway, he blogged about it, and the dean of students found it, who doesn't own a computer, but he somehow Googled like Umish iClicker hack, found my friend's blog, and my friend got suspended because the guy was like brainless. Meanwhile, like people at other schools were given like monetary grants to work on this as like a graduate research program. Like one school is paying students to do this, and other schools are suspending them, and I just thought that was silly. I tried to like get some professors to vouch for him and like reverse it, but he was just like one of those people. It was there was no convincing. But administrators are fun, yeah, especially when they don't know shit about what they're administering. Oh, but let's not talk politics. Right, so I'm gonna try and write some tests for this now. So there's really only two thinking functions here. There's the find repos, which has this tiny amount of logic. And then there's this apply fix function. It has a significant amount of logic, but we'll be able to set that up into a bunch of different cases. And honestly, if I take this code and just like factor it out into a different tool, which actually, maybe I'll do that. I'll probably do that after stream. But when I factor this out, then this test will be trivial. It'll just be, oh, did it change the setup.py file? Okay, cool. Looks good enough to me. But we don't need this function. But I don't remember how this works. Auto-updatable. Oh, it just makes a repo. And then add some files to it. Do I have a streaming schedule or just ad hoc? So far it's been mostly ad hoc. I should really try and stick to a schedule because it seems when I stream consistently, it seems like I get more people that watch. There's usually one day of the week that I always stream, which is Saturday around either noon or 1 p.m. Pacific. But other than that, it's pretty ad hoc. Oh, I just noticed pre-commit, a framework for managing and maintaining multi-language Git hooks. Yep, it's me. But yeah, I should try and stick to a better schedule. I haven't been super. I'm bad at this, if you can't tell. But yeah, I should make a schedule and stick to that better. But for now, the only day that I consistently stream is Saturdays. Although I didn't do that this week because I was on vacation. I was, let's see if I can get a picture of vacation, Anthony. Oh, here's a good one. Here's vacation, Anthony. This was me. This was me in Florida, being like, peace. I'm not doing code. Going by your GitHub commit grid, maintaining consistency is a strong suit of yours. Yeah, GitHub is kind of my thing. It's what I like to do in my free time. That said, like I also like to bike and run, and recently I've been going climbing, which I find to be a lot of fun as well. My GitHub page overloads, but yeah, I'm a 7-day-a-week GitHub person. This week was my vacation, and I still did something every day of my vacation. Whoops. I guess it's less if you look in private browsing. But if you include my Lyft contributions, it's over 9,000! But public contributions, it's still pretty significant. Wait, why are these numbers different? This is 1 on the 13th. This is 3 on the what? GitHub, what are you doing? Yeah, 3 things there, but this only says 1. But there are 3 things. So GitHub is just, like, I no longer trust these values. Did you break GitHub? Probably. I bet he has a gold Stack Overflow badge for visiting the page for 100 consecutive days. I do actually have that badge. Am I logged in Chrome? Yes, I am. I have a bit of rep. I don't have any gold tag badges though yet. I have the... Oh, I got the bronze badge for that finally? Wow. What is that gold badge? Do I not have it? I'm pretty sure. Oh, I do. Yeah, Fanatic. Yeah, definitely have that one. But yeah, I have a silver badge for Python finally, despite having like the score requirement already. I have double the score requirement, mostly because of this one question. When Pip broke Debian, or it broke people running silly things like sudo pip upgrade. But yeah, I have a few Stack Overflow points. I recently got a bunch for a bounty. Which question was that? Is this not sorted chronologically? It's not. Anyway. Yeah, I spend a significant amount of time on Stack Overflow also. But yeah, I'm really confused why GitHub has the wrong number for this here. I assume it's because my user profile is like slightly broken. What was I working on again? Right. I was working on tests. We're distracting. Yeah, it happens. But it's fun to chat. So I'm just going to make a PyTest fixture that I'll use throughout these tests, which will just have a it'll just have a setup.cfg, which will end up rewriting. And yeah, I think that's setup.py. I wonder what the minimum setup.py I need for this to pass is. Actually, now that I think about it, some of these access fields, like this, requires name. Although setup.py has to have name, so that's fine. Oh, it requires classifiers. I will not include classifiers so that this breaks. And then we'll write a test for that. So very basic setup.py, and then we'll run main. Oh, I guess I should use write file commit. That way it actually makes that repo exist. Okay, so I'll write this setup.py, then I'll run main, assert that it's successful. Consuming repo, what? Oh, I don't need the hook repo. Oh, I do need to do this though. Yeah, so the way all repos works is you clone a repo from some source, and then you perform the modification in a temporary directory, and then it pushes back to the source repository. And so I need one level of indirection here. Oh, this is kind of annoying though. Oh, no, it'll work out. Even if I'm just modifying this source repo, the way the autofix library works is it clones this and then it pulls. So it'll always get this updated version, even if I don't update this clone, if I remember correctly. So that'll be our assertion about setup.py, and we'll fill this in a second. That should be our basic test. Basically, write out the repository in the original state, run the fixer so that it updates the repository, and then check the final state. First, we have to fix the syntax errors. Undefined name init repo. Oh, and by the way, what I'm doing when I see this lint error down here is I'm running Control-T, which in the background runs Flake8. Oh, there's a bug in the syntax highlighting. Great. And Flake8 is finding Python errors. I'm also a maintainer of Flake8 now, too. Undefined name consuming repo. Missing white space after comma. Sometimes Flake8 has some nitpicky errors, which is a little annoying. But yeah, now I should be able to run this test. And it fails. Oh hey, for exactly the reason that I said it was going to fail. And it didn't perform the update, which is what we expect. Cool, so we need to fix that. What else did I see while I was doing this? I don't remember. Oh, another thing that I just thought of, I'll need to include this in my development requirements such that when I run this in continuous integration, this will be installed. This is just to make sure that we don't try and access something that doesn't exist, which is why the test failed. Cool, so now it's failing because we don't have this filled out. Do I have any tips on how to avoid burnout? I'm probably not a good person to ask about that. I don't think I get burned out very easily. And I don't really know why I don't, I guess. Taking vacation is a good one. Definitely is true. So when you test a code, it searches for syntax errors only or something more. So in this case, I'm using linters to test for syntax errors. So like Blake8 checks for syntax errors. But my tests are making sure that the behavior is correct. It happened to find a, I guess, like, kind of typing error in this case, or a logic error, and I was able to fix the logic error. But yeah, Burnout. I think the biggest thing, like, I've definitely felt burned out about projects before, and like, sometimes you're gonna work on stuff that isn't interesting, or like, you don't find rewarding or whatever. And I don't have great advice for that other than just like try and find stuff that you enjoy doing and do that as much as possible. But I don't have any great answers for that question. I'm sorry. Just don't get burned out. Simple solution. Yeah. I don't know that that's actually the answer. Get good. Okay, cool. So now we have our first passing test. One tool that I use a lot when working with testing is a tool called coverage. Coverage shows me like which parts of the code are being covered by my tests. So if I were to use, instead of PyTest test, I do coverage run. Well, first I do coverage erase, and then coverage run PyTest test autofix setup and coverage report. So this will run the test with code coverage enabled. So it'll show me like there are 11 lines that I never cover at all, and there are 3 branches that I never cover. So overall, I have 80%, and in all of my projects, I try and aim for 100%. This didn't have any tests, so bad example. Ignore that. Have depression? Try being happy. Let me tell you, that does not work. Yeah, like most of my projects, I try and aim for 100% coverage, and including all repos, so I'll need to add more tests for this. But the nice thing about coverage is it helps me find which lines aren't covered, and then I can selectively write tests for that. Holy green squares. Yeah, we were talking about that earlier. Lots and lots of green squares. Maybe taking some milkshakes with yogurt and sliced fruit or green juice of crushed vegetables is good for burnout. Maybe. This song sounds new. I don't think I've heard this one before. Kinda like it. Drugs. Drugs are good for burnout. Yeah. See, so line 39 is one of the lines that isn't covered. Yeah, because we didn't test the find repos function at all. And I don't remember how that one got tested before. So let's find how I test that usually. It's like I usually have a negative test and a positive test. Improt. To me IRL, for me IRL. Oh no. Okay, so test find repos, skips already migrated. So this is what setup.py looks like after it's been migrated. So it should find nothing. Oh, we have to clone. Dang it. And so then we should find one where it has actual stuff in here. Yeah, so that should cover more things now. Can I import name clone? Oh, because I imported it wrong. What's write file commits? Testing git. So it takes a git directory, a file name, and the contents. It writes the contents to that file and then makes a git commit, which is just adds all the files and then commits with a message of foo. It's just a shortcut because I found that I was doing these 4 lines over and over and over. And so I made a quick function for it. But it's basically like stick this file with this contents into the testing repo. Very dry, yeah. The funny thing is, the first time I wrote this function, I wasn't running my tests in a or I didn't have this first argument or something, or I wasn't running in my temporary directory, and so it made commits to my actual project. So I lost some work there. It was a little rough, but I tend to work on projects that play with Git repos more than I should, like pre-commit or this or a couple other projects. And so my tests often have to deal with Git repos, and I've lost so much time to my tests destroying my working directory. But that's the way things go. Alright, so now, is that in memory? No, it's actual Git repos on disk. So the tempter fixture, this tempter fixture makes a real temporary directory. By the way, sorry if my English is kind of bad. I'm Portuguese. No, your English is fine. I would have had no idea. So good job on your English. Your English is probably better than many people that I talk to in real life. Yeah, no problem. Happy to help. Right, so now we're looking at line 53. Okay, and this is where we start getting into our metadata transformations. Good luck on your programming journey. Yes, definitely. Actually, I think I'm just gonna stick this in the basic fixture up here. Just because all of my tests are probably gonna need something like it. That way I don't need to copy this over and over. So with a README, we should expect new fields here. What's the field? Long description. Oops, I lost this. Too many blank lines. Fixed. Oh, failing test. Did I type spaces around the slash? Or is this thing broken? Oh, I'm just not paying attention. Alright, so that should have covered 53 through 55. 57 through 65. 57. Oops. No, that's not what I want. This one. 57. Oh, the license stuff. Okay. Screw that up. Whoops. Test rewrite with license. We'll just copy. We'll copy the license of this project. Should end up with license. I forget what the order was. License is first. Oh, we should end up with a classifier here. I think that's right. Let's go back to coverage over here. It was not right. Oh, this was the other thing that I said I was going to have to fix. default to an empty string, which will get rstrip to an empty string, and then this will be set. I think that's right. I was clearly running coverage on a file called t.py before. Now it failed. Oh, did I indent that wrong? 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces. Getting close. There's only one branch being missed now. 63. Oh, that's not the file I want. 63. Oh, so it's checking. It's only checking the MIT license. So we'll fudge some non-MIT license. This is not the tab I was working in. This one. So this should set everything except for license equals MIT and the classifier. So it should still set license file though. And now it should have 100% coverage. Nice. Cool. And I use Tox to test this project. Tox is another another thing I maintained. But Tox is basically a way to set up a small metadata file. This one's complicated. Let me show you a less complicated one. You basically set up this metadata file which says like which Python versions you want to target. In this case I only target Python 3.6 for whatever reason. In each test environment, you set up what dependencies to install. In this case, I'm installing from requirements.dev.txt, and then the commands to run. The commands for this particular one are basically the coverage commands I was showing you before, except it enforces that coverage is 100%. Then it also runs pre-commit to make sure that all of the lint rules are up to date. It's a warning, but not from my project. Oh, that's gonna be rough. This is gonna break literally everyone that uses YAML. Which is awesome. How is that not gonna just like break the world? 126. What? Oh, that's not my file. Test find repos. This is going to be pretty unfortunate for literally everyone. Yeah, this is what I was talking about earlier, where MyPy is kind of annoying. Incremental types in assignment expression has tuple stir tuple stir. Yeah, this is what I wanted it to be. I thought I type annotated that one. Yeah, I did. Oh, this feels like a C++ error. Incremental types in assignment expression has tuple Double stir, double stir, 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 stir. Alright. We're gonna tab this out because I cannot read at all what it's trying to say. So we have tuple. Oh, I see what it's saying. Okay. This is what it wants. Let's see if it's okay without me type annotating it. It is not. It is so very far from fine. And Code Formatters fixed a couple other things for me. Like the indentation of this was off slightly, and this import was not ordered properly. And I missed a comma here, for instance. But the nice thing is I don't have to think about those. The Code Formatter just fixes it for me. Let's run talks again just to make sure it works. I'm using Python 3.8 just for lulz. But it works, I guess. And all green? All green, cool. Add autofixer for upgrading setup.py. Oh, I forgot to document it. Just quickly add a line to the README. Setup.py upgrade. Thank you, Q8 Rock, for following. Every follow counts. Is that a word? Tidies? Is that how you spell it? Yeah, okay. Just looks weird. What's up, Alpha White Fox? Alright, so now I guess I can show it running on more of the repos, but I'm probably gonna wind down the stream here and let it run. But this is what we did this stream, was build this autofixer thing. And I'll probably at some other point split this logic here out into some other tools so that I can run it more isolated. So right now I don't know, it's kind of boxed into this framework, which, while it works pretty well, it's a little clunky to get started if you're only trying to do that one thing. And we wrote some tests for it, which was cool. But now, let's see. What are you doing? I'm planning to learn Python. So I just finished up. I have this tool called setup.py upgrade. The way you package things up and distribute libraries in Python is by writing a little bit of metadata, and the usual way to do that is to write a setup.py file, which imports some stuff from setup tools and then calls a function with some metadata. And this works, it's fine, but it's kind of the old way, and there's a couple of reasons why it's a little bit clunky. The main reason being it's hard to programmatically change the contents of this file. But it turns out, in the brave new world of Setup Tools 30.3 plus, you can now take that code and instead encode it as data. And so setup.cfg, which is a INI formatted data file, replaces that other setup.py file. And so I wrote a tool a couple streams ago to automatically migrate the setup.py code to the setup.cfg code. And what I was doing today was writing a fixer which would automatically apply that same change to all of my repositories. So try and automate this tedious replacement process. But the nice thing about this format is I can write code which will modify the contents of this, and I can do it in a more reliable way than I would have been able to, that I would not have been able to in the setup.py world. And so that's what I did today. I also wrote tests for it, and I haven't run it yet on a couple. I ran it on a couple of repos. If I can demonstrate what it does. All repos, autofix, setup.py, upgrade, repos. So if I, for instance, run it on all repos, which is the repo that I'm modifying right now, it'll automatically create a pull request for me, as we can see here. Thank you, Yusisuvacho, for following. I hope I was somewhat close there. Every follow counts. But you can, like, just by writing that little bit of auto-fixing code, it modified this file for me, and you can see here's what the output is. So it took this setup.py here and turned it into this setup.cfg up here. Yep, I am writing some Python, although I'm winding down pretty soon here. And probably about to drop a bunch of frames, but what are you gonna do? But yeah, here's an example of it modifying this automatically, and it created a pull request for me, so I can just like wait until this finishes running tests and then merge it. Thank you, Alpha White Fox, for following. Every follow counts. But yeah, I'm probably gonna wind this down here. I'm gonna run the autofixer against all of my repositories, but offline because it causes me to drop frames whenever I do it. But yeah, that's all I have for today. If you missed any part of the stream, it'll be up on YouTube. My YouTube channel is the same as my Twitch channel, so if you want to go to youtube.com/AnthonyWritesCode and subscribe or whatever, I don't know, whatever creators ask you to, ding that bell. That's where all of my streams will be. Unfortunately, I don't have all of my streams going back forever. I've only recently started re-uploading them to YouTube. Oh no, why did this fail? What? Was Talks too old? No, Talks is new enough. Could not package project -v equals. What? Package directory :find does not exist. What? Anyway, I'll figure that out later. But yeah, thank you all for stopping by, and oh, you can also I announce my streams on Twitter, so if you find me, I'm twitter.com/ oh shoot, what is my Twitter handle? I think it's Codes with Anthony. I'm really bad at brand synergy, so unfortunately it's not the same as my Twitch and YouTube, but that's that. And anyway, thank you all for stopping by, and have a good one.